You wake up, your phone's already buzzing. Emails, messages, notifications, screaming for your attention. You swipe, scroll, toss the blanket off. You're running already, and your day hasn't even begun. Welcome to the cult of busyness. But here's the kicker. Being busy isn't the same as being productive. And deep down, you know it. You feel it. You check off task after task. Your to-do list grows shorter, but somehow, so does your sense of fulfillment. You're constantly in motion, but are you actually getting anywhere? Let's call it what it really is. A form of escape. A socially acceptable addiction. See, we're raised to believe that hustle equals value. That worth is measured by how much you do, how fast you move, how little you rest. We see people bragging about 12-hour workdays like it's a badge of honor. We say things like, I've been slammed, I'm drowning, I barely had time to eat, but we say them with pride. Why? Because in this culture, being busy is a signal. It says, look at me, I matter. But what if I told you that busyness is the enemy of clarity, okay? That the more you fill your schedule, the less you actually live your life. Most people don't recognize they're wearing busyness like armor to protect them from silence, from facing real questions like, am I on the right path? Do I actually like what I do? Who am I when I'm not working? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Being busy gives you permission to avoid those questions. It's a distraction disguised as discipline. Let me ask you something. When's the last time you had a real day off? Not a day filled with errands, phone calls, and background guilt about what you should be doing, but a day where you were fully present, where you felt like time actually slowed down. If you can't remember, you're not alone. Most people are caught in a cycle called productivity guilt. You feel like you should always be doing something. If you sit still, rest, or enjoy life for even a moment, you feel lazy, useless, behind. But here is something we rarely hear. The most successful people in the world aren't the busiest. They're the most focused. Focus creates breakthroughs. Busyness creates burnout. Now, I get it. You're not intentionally overwhelming yourself. You're trying to keep up. Maybe you're working 2 jobs. Maybe you're navigating school, social media, side hustles, family expectations. The problem is, we've been taught to confuse urgency with importance. We treat everything like it's a fire. You replied to emails during dinner. Check your phone on the toilet. Work while eating. Scroll while walking. Your nervous system is constantly activated. Your mind splintered into 1,000 browser tabs. You're addicted not just to doing, but to never stopping. And eventually, it catches up to you. One moment, you're pushing through, exhausted, but convincing yourself it's discipline. Then one day, you crash. You hit a wall. You look around and realize you've been sprinting in place. Here's the scary part. The habit of being busy is so deeply wired that doing less can feel wrong. It's even terrifying. That's why some people sabotage peace. They fill free time with chaos. They confuse stillness with stagnation. Silence isn't dangerous, it's where alignment begins. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine 2 people. One is busy every hour of every day. Meetings, emails, calls. They barely think, barely breathe. The second person spends 3 hours a day in deep, meaningful work with 2 hours of strategic rest. Who do you think accomplishes more in the long run? Exactly. High-quality output demands space. Creativity demands boredom. Progress demands perspective. And perspective only shows up when you disconnect long enough to actually see your life. Here's something you probably haven't heard. Rest, ISNT, the opposite of productivity. It's a function of it. Think of professional athletes. They don't train 24/7. They train, then recover. Why? Because that's how you grow stronger. Muscles don't build during the workout. They build during the rest. Your brain works the same, but no one tells you this. Instead, you're bombarded with influencers who post motivational quotes at 5 a.m., talking about grinding while you sleep, as if sleep is weakness, as if rest is slacking. They're selling you a lie. Being on nonstop doesn't make you powerful, it makes you fragile. It's one small setback and your entire system crumbles because you've built your self-worth around hustle instead of alignment. So, how do you escape this? You start by shifting metrics. Stop measuring the day by how many hours you worked. Stop measuring it by what moved the needle, by what created fulfillment, by what actually aligned with the life you say you want. Otherwise, you'll live in contradiction. Say you want freedom, but build a life that chains you to your calendar. Say you want peace, but schedule every hour until you're anxious. Say you crave depth, but only skim the surface of everything. Let's change that, because here's a radical truth. You don't need to do more. You need to do less, better. You don't need 50 apps, systems, routines, or hacks. You need to subtract, eliminate, prioritize. Ask yourself, if I could only do 3 things today that truly mattered, which would they be? That question alone can change everything. You begin to notice how much time is spent on noise, shallow tasks, other people's agendas, fake urgency, comparison. You realize most of the chaos isn't real. It's manufactured, often by you. But this isn't about blame. It's about awareness. And once you become aware that your calendar is not a reflection of your values, you have a choice. You can begin to redesign your days around what actually matters, not what just looks busy. Okay? And the first step isn't adding more. Stopping. Stopping doesn't mean giving up. It means creating space for thought, for vision, for realignment. When you stop reacting to everything, you start remembering what actually matters. So, what does that look like practically? It starts with building white space into your day. Time that's unstructured. It's time without a task attached. This isn't wasted time, it's where your best ideas live. It's those moments of silence in the shower, on a walk, or lying in bed. Those are where your brain connects the dots. It's where clarity sneaks in and whispers, this is what you've been missing. But most people never hear it because they filled every empty space with noise. Podcasts at double speed, music always playing, TikToks endlessly scrolling. Do you realize most of us haven't truly been alone with our thoughts in years? Doing less feels terrifying at first because the busyness was never just about the tasks. It was a shield. The moment you stop moving, things start catching up with UHOD insecurities, buried questions, dreams you've postponed and disguised under to-do lists. But listen closely. Letting them surface is the beginning of real purpose. That dream you've been pushing aside, it's not dead. It's drowned in digital noise, urgency, addiction, and fear hidden in hyperproductivity. You'll never reach alignment by moving faster in the wrong direction. So what if you've simplified everything? Not as a life aesthetic, but as a survival strategy. Cut your to-do list in half. Say no twice as often. Schedule real downtime and protect it like a business deal. Silence every non-essential notification. Move slower, but with intention. Because contrary to what culture tells you, slow isn't lazy. Slow is strategic. Fast looks good on Instagram. Slow builds things that last. There's a concept called deep work, coined by author Cal Newport. It means long, uninterrupted focus on one meaningful task. No multitasking. No jumping tabs. No dopamine hits from checking your phone every 2 minutes. Just ... you and the work. That's where genius lives. That's where breakthroughs happen, not in the chaos of a back-to-back calendar. You'll never create anything meaningful when your attention is shattered. And here, as the truth we Dante say enough, attention is your most valuable currency. Not money, not time. Attention, because whatever gets your attention gets your life. So where is your attention being stolen? Notice how, these days, even your rest is passive. Netflix running in the background. YouTube open while scrolling Twitter. You're relaxing, but your mind is still racing, bouncing, absorbing, reacting. You're not resting, you're numbing. There's a massive difference. Rest recharges you. Numbing drains you quietly. So let me ask you, what would your life look like if you weren't just busy, but actually present? What would your days feel like if they weren't overflowing, but focused? What would it mean to finally feel caught up, not because you did everything, but because you started choosing what actually deserved to get done? Here's a radical thought. Busyness isn't a requirement. It's a decision. And before you argue, we all have responsibilities. Rent to pay, deadlines to hit, families to support. But if you look closer, you'll notice your essential list probably includes things that truly belong there. You say you don't have time to read, to move, to sit in silence, but somehow disappear on things you can't even remember. Time is not the issue. Attention design is. The goal is not to be productive every hour. The goal is to be intentional with the hours that matter and ruthless with the ones that don't. Because here's the ultimate truth. Being busy is easy. Being intentional is hard. Busy is a reflex. Intentionality is a skill. Being busy gives you short-term dopamine. But intention builds a long-term life. So let me give you something useful. Not a hack, not a life quote. A mental framework. It's called the 4 burners theory. Imagine your life has 4 burners on a stove. Health, work, friends, and family. Most people try to keep all burners on high at all times. But like a real stove, your energy, your fuel is limited. Turn them all on to high, and nothing cooks properly. Your energy spreads so thin that everything suffers. Want to go far in one area? You need to turn another burner down. Not forever, but consciously. It's not about balance, it's about sequencing. Maybe right now, work is your focus, but make that decision intentionally, not reactively. Maybe it's health, but don't apologize for it. Stop letting guilt force you to people please every area of your life simultaneously. Busyness tells you to juggle it all. But real progress starts with acceptance. You can do anything, but not everything at once. That's freedom. Now, let's talk about burnout, because the end of busyness is often where people find collapse. Your body can only take so much. Your mind only has so much input it can process. So sooner or later, you slam into the wall, exhausted, anxious, wondering where the time went. But burnout is not a badge. It's a boundary you ignored. And every time you cross it, that line fades a little more. So this is your wake-up call, not to do more, but to feel more, to sense when enough is enough. So notice when your joy, your energy, your clarity begins to erode, because that's when you need less hustle, not more. And here's a final thought. Maybe the reason you haven't made the leap, the decision, is because you don't want it, or you're lazy. Maybe it's because you've even too busy chasing everything else to even notice the life calling out to you. Quiet lives don't shout, okay? Whisper. Maybe today's the day you start listening, because life is short, but being full, meaning, joy, depth, that's a choice few make, and even fewer protect. Busy will always be there. Tasks will multiply. Someone will always need something, but you only get one life. So choose your attention like your life depends on it, because it does. Today, don't just check off another box. Don't just grind or push through or distract or numb. Put the phone down. Close the 20 tabs. Take a breath, okay? And ask yourself, honestly, what truly matters today. Okay? Now, go do that and only that. Everything else can wait.